Hi guys, I'm Hex Trojan, and welcome back to Gaming Hexa. Something a little different today with regards to space engineers. I'm just going to let you watch this for a couple of seconds, you might get the idea of what's going on. This drone here is lining up, and he's going to automatically dock to this area if this guy gets out of the way quick enough. Oh, that was close. Right, you can see I've set up a system here where I have a few drones who are basically running a circuit. You'll see he'll fly around in a circle now. He'll go around us, come back around, and he'll really dock. Just like this guy here, just backed up onto there, locked on. He'll wait 15 seconds. See, he wants to hurry up because another one's coming in. He'll unlock himself and he'll fly to an exit waypoint. No. Right, luckily, this can happen. And it's not a problem. See, he just lines back up again because he hasn't reached his waypoint yet. He won't give up until he gets there. There we go. He'll wait a few seconds to make sure he's locked on properly, and then he'll lock the connector. He'll wait about 15 seconds, I believe. Also hurry up because the next drone's on his way in. He'll unlock. He'll go down to his exit waypoint, and then he'll continue the circuit. Now I've got 3 drones running this, and it was basically just to demonstrate, like these are cargo drones, all they have is a couple of cargo containers. We could use this at 2 different stations, repeating this process to move resources backwards and forwards, or you could have turrets attached to them if they were large ships, and they could be running patrols and just reloading and refueling at certain stations along the way. And what I wanted to do was, when they released the update, that was the improvements to the navigation system, and which was the precision navigation up to waypoints, so you could really do the docking and that. I wanted to do the whole automated docking thing straight away, and but I couldn't really glean enough information from the video itself, and I had some difficulty, to be honest. There's a lot of things I had to take into consideration, and I thought I'd make this little tutorial video just to show people how I done it. So I'm showing you the end product first because it took me a long time to get here. Once you get one drone doing it, it's just a matter of, because obviously this is in creative at the moment, it's just a matter of copy and pasting the same drone and just releasing it at different intervals so that these guys don't crash into each other like you saw a moment ago there. See, this guy probably isn't going to get away on time for this guy. But first things first, I'll show you my waypoints. We'll start from the first one. The first one is actually, I believe, is the base exit 1. Now, obviously it's directly in front of the connection to the base and low down. That's so that when a drone exits from the dock area where it docks, the one that's above it on the approach waypoint, they'll miss each other. So he goes down and he continues in a straight line, so it's less likely that they're going to crash into each other unless the timing between them is too close. You can see there's just a few other waypoints. One of the waypoints is the dock itself, and I'll show you how to do that. And then it's just 3 waypoints around the asteroid just to simulate a route that the drone could take. Goes around, runs his route, and then once he gets to the last waypoint here and he has to approach. So I created a waypoint called base approach, and this one's quite important because I want the connector on the drone to line up perfectly with the dock where it's going to dock. So in order to have done that, I docked with the remote control on the drone. I docked it, and created the waypoint through the remote, so that the waypoint would be created directly on top of where the remote exists. So you see this one here, it says base dock 1. See, he'll pull in now, and you'll see there, that's where the remote is. See, so when you create a waypoint inside of a drone, like when you're remotely controlling, the waypoint is created on top of the remote control, and that was important, so I had to do that first. And then once I'd done that and created that waypoint, the dock waypoint, I then just moved forward in a straight line for about 130 meters, I believe it is, and created the base 1 approach waypoint. That way I knew that when the drone got here and I told it to go to its next waypoint, which was the dock waypoint, that I'd tell it to go backwards, fly backwards into it, that it would be lined up perfectly, because I had to fly in a straight line perfectly to get to place this waypoint. And obviously the exit waypoint is just below that to prevent collisions, or less likely collisions. You see now he's lined himself up backwards. That's all done with timer blocks. He's locked on there now, and I'm going to talk you now through what the drone is actually doing. So we're going to leave this one, we're going to wait for the next one to come around, and they're moving quite quick, so I'm going to tell you what's happening at each waypoint. At each waypoint you can assign an action, and the actions in this case will be the activation of timer blocks on the drone. So Hex 1, 2 and 3 are just waypoints, so they have no actions connected to them. I'll see if I can remember the exact actions and try and talk you through it. Right, he's moving from 3 to base approach 1. Right, when he gets to base approach 1, it's telling a timer, you hear it clicking, to activate fly backwards and precision flying through the remote control. So that makes him fly backwards, and he moves on to his next waypoint, which is the dock. He'll fly backwards and more carefully than what he normally does, so he slows down more before he gets to it. Now when he gets to base 1, there's a 4-second delay and a timer on the timer that's telling this to lock. Right, once it's done that, the 4 seconds are over, it activates timer 3, which has a 15-second delay, and it tells it to unlock, turn off precision mode, and fly forward. And his next waypoint is exit, so he flies forward to the exit. Now, at base exit, I have the waypoints set to one way, so when he gets to the end of the waypoints, which I think is base exit 1, autopilot turns off, so then I have a timer block that tells it at base exit 1, or base 1 exit, to turn on autopilot again. So basically it does a route, and if I don't get it to turn on autopilot again, then all the drones, once they got to this point, would just stop, and they wouldn't have this loop. I could put it on circle, but I was having problems with circle where once it got to a waypoint, especially when it was docking, it would quickly try and turn to the next waypoint, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to stay in the docked position when it gets here, not to turn and face the next waypoint. And it was making it very hard for me to secure a lock onto the connection, onto the connectors here. And that's basically it. What we're going to do is we're going to try and get one of these guys and show you. So, like, that was the visual part, just letting you see what it's doing. I'm going to show you now the one of these drones, if I can find one that's moving around. It's going to be hard because they all have the same name, as you'll see. We'll go to this one here. Let's view his camera. Here. Right, we'll use this guy. I think, was that the second one down? Oh, have we lost one? Oh no, it's because he's connected to the thing. Right, we'll go to remote, and we'll go to off, and we'll go to control. There we go. Where is he? Okay. Camera, view. Here he is. Right. Let's bring him just over to the base so we can have a look at him. This is just a mock-up of a little drone. It literally took me about 5 minutes to create it. It was just for the purpose of this little tutorial, which I'm hoping is making sense, but if not, hopefully it will become clear. Right, so come out there. Right, so here he is. As you can see, just 2 cargo containers, thrusters, gyros, reactors, what you'd expect. Right, the important thing on this is the remote, which is center, direct center. If I was to draw a line straight down the middle of the ship through the remote, that line should pass through the center of the connector. And that makes sense because when the drone gets to this point and he's told to go backwards, like this one has moved backwards onto the connector, obviously the remote is the point of reference, so the remote is moving backwards from that point to the connector, so it needs to be perfectly lined up with the connector in order for the connector to meet, like you're going to see now. Which means no matter what way you turn the ship on that axis, and by that axis I mean the line between the remote and the connector, no matter how far the ship is turned off of that axis, it's going to still connect and flush to them connectors. Whereas if you have designs with the remote that where, say, let's say if that remote was up 1 square here, which would put it off center to this connector, if the ship then turns on this axis like this, the connector won't stay in the same place, it will wobble, which means it's likely that if something happens along its route and it slightly changes its axis for whatever reason, then it's more likely that at some point it's not going to connect, and it will mess up the whole circle of the waypoints and the actions and everything else. That said, that out of the way, let's have a quick look inside. So the normal stuff that you'd expect. The important things are the only things I'm going to show, so let me hide all the other stuff. That's probably not so important either. Should have really done this first, it would have made more sense. Right, these are really the important things now. The remote control and the timer blocks. Now, we go to the bottom here. You can see the flight mode is set to one way, and the direction, the initial direction is set to forward. Of course, because that can all be changed with timer blocks, so that doesn't really matter right now. But it's set to forward, and you can see the waypoints are as such. So base exit 1 is the first one, even. Hex Trojan 1, 2 and 3, so it starts at the exit, it continues through the waypoints, and then the last 2 actions are it approaching and then docking at the station. And you can see that the only 2 waypoints that have actions attached to them are the approach, where we tell I'll show you, where we tell it to activate timer block 1, and timer block 1 is basically 1 second delay, so no delay. Turn the remote to precision mode, so it flies slower and more carefully towards the next waypoint, and asking it to fly backwards, so fly with that orientation, so it's backside basically towards the direction it's going, or with regards to the remote anyway. So the back of the remote will be flying forward. Right, that is it for when it gets to that waypoint, which was the approach. That's how we get the ship to turn. Right, now when it gets to the actual connection, because there might be a problem with regards to it, see how it slows down before it gets to the waypoint, and there's a bit of a wobble, and it's just making the connection with the connector. So I'll give it about 4 seconds before it does the next action. As you can see here, 4 seconds on timer block 2. So 1 second to remote. So base 1 dock. So as soon as it gets to that docking area, it activates timer block 2. And in timer block 2, all it tells it to do is after 4 seconds lock the connector and then activate timer block 3. So bearing in mind it's locked onto the connector and timer block 3 has been activated. Timer block 3 has a 15-second delay, which means we're basically telling the ship to sit there for 15 seconds before it does anything. Once it has sat there for 15 seconds, it will then execute its actions, which are turn off precision mode, so you're going to fly at normal speed, fly forward because we want it to fly it in the direction of the next waypoint, which is directly in front of it. We don't want it to start spinning in front of the connector and accidentally hit something and try flying backwards, because bearing in mind it is still going to be in backwards mode. We haven't set it back to forward, which the last timer did. So it's going to fly forward. At the same time it's going to unlock the connector, and it's going to, because this is the last waypoint, sorry, I got it wrong earlier, this is the last waypoint, I've got it to turn on autopilot again. But like I said, if I go back, because I have it set to one way, where is it? Here, because I have it set to one way on the flight mode, as soon as it gets to that last waypoint here, it's going to turn off autopilot, which means once it's got to that waypoint and it's executed the actions that it has there, unless one of them actions cycles the waypoints again, then it's just going to sit there and because it's done. So the very, very last action is turn on autopilot, so it starts it all over again. So it will move back to the first waypoint, which was base exit 1, and that's basically all there is to it. It took a bit of getting used to, because you'll forget things, but obviously it won't work unless you remember everything. Like I had an instant while I was setting this up where I forgot to tell it to unlock from the connector, and it didn't unlock, but it still tried to get to the next waypoint but couldn't, and the thrusters were going and it was locked in place. So I thought, I'll just manually unlock it, and I unlocked it and it flew off into the distance, and I hadn't saved it or anything, so all the work that I'd put in with the waypoints and everything else in the timer blocks just flew off into the distance. And it had, because of the shorter range of the antennas on the small ships being 5,000 meters, as soon as it was gone, and I just had to sit back and watch it fly away, which wasn't a very nice feeling after about an hour's work. But once you've done it 1, 2 or 3 times and you've set it up, then this is quite easy to set up. In fact, I'm just going to delete these 2 guys for now. He's gone. Where's the other one? There you are. Oh, look at that. What a shot. Where's the next one? You stay still. Stay still. Stay still. Yeah, gotcha. Right, I'm going to go back to controlling this guy, just to show you how I set up the waypoint. Quickly does it. Remote control. Take control. We're going to just get inside this guy for now. So basically, I've just, in setting this up, all I've done is I've backed the right to create the dock waypoint. This is control the drone. Have to look what I'm doing, so just dock it up to the thing. It should get there by itself for most part. There we go. So it's on there. Let it settle. Make sure it's nice and flush in there. Good. Right, and then just press K while I'm still in the remote control mode. GPS. New from current position, and that will create the default waypoint, and I just changed the name to base 1 dock, and that is it. That will create the waypoint over the remote control, which is on the front of this particular ship. Now once you've created that, the dock, make sure you've labelled it so you know that's the dock waypoint. That's when it's in position to in line with the connection. Now we want it to line up flush when it comes in on this approach, so we fly in a straight line forward as far as you want. You could even fly this far. I've just flew 100 odd meters in front of me just to make sure I had plenty of distance between me, the ship, and the base to avoid collisions. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to stay in line of sight, and then just press K again, and this one will be the approach. So this is where it comes to first, so that when you get it to activate the timer block and tell it to fly backwards, you know that from this point to that point is a straight line and there's no problems, because that's how you set it up. That is the bare bones of it. Of course, once you've got that set up, you can do all kinds of things. You can then get the timer blocks to activate lights or sounds and stuff like that. So I could have a sound block on there, and maybe some flashing lights, that red lights that turn on when it's backing into the thing to warn people on the platform that there's an incoming drone or something like that. You could do a lot of things basically. Well, I just thought I'd do this because it took me a long time to get my head around it, and I just hope that maybe someone actually talking about it and showing how it works might help other people do it more efficiently themselves. So this is my drone and my automatic docking tutorial. I hope it was helpful to some people. If you like, please subscribe, and we'll be getting back to our survival series soon. Thank you very much. Bye now.